able to find it in a second here. All right, we should be live. So if you refresh. Yep, I see it live there. All right. Let me just tweet this out again as well. Share. In depth. There's going to be a delay too with people getting in here again. The notifications have been terrible with YouTube lately. Like it's a 2-minute delay, like when you go live to when people start filtering in half the time, even if they got notifications on. That's how it is. It's ridiculous. So.
All right, give me 1 second here.
You're good. Yep. Don't worry about it, man. What's going on, guys that are popping in? We're going to just test his volume out and all that stuff, make sure we're good before we officially go live, like with the interview. So you want to say, if you just say test or whatever. And
Test.
How does he sound? Is the volume good on your guys' end? I mean, you sound fine to me, but everybody always sounds fine. It's them that I worry about. 'Cause sometimes they'll be like, it's a little low, or I can't barely hear them. How's the volume, guys?
Anybody? How's it going?
Are we good?
Turn on the comments.
Is it good, guys? Loud and clear? All good? Okay. Perfect. All right, guys. I want to welcome you back to another episode of In Depth. We just got done with Buck City Breaks. We're going to follow this up with a special guest, a Georgia boy, a family man, fellow hobbyist, also a writer for Beckett. My man Joey, also known as Dub Mentality. How you doing today? Or tonight, I guess I should say, brother.
Hey, I'm good, man. I really appreciate you having me on. Glad to be here. I know we met back at the National.
Yeah. Yep.
And I like to see what you're doing, and glad to be a part of it.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm happy, and I'm honored to be able to have you on here. So, are you ready to dive in? You ready to get in depth?
Let's go, man.
All right, brother. All right. So let's kick it back. Let's kick it back to I guess childhood, kind of where you grew up, where you were raised, I guess, and we'll roll from there. So.
All right. I am currently right this minute about 8 miles from where I was raised. I've lived all my life in South Georgia. Was born in Camilla, which is a small town about 2.5 hours from Atlanta, south. So I'm closer to Tallahassee than I am Atlanta.
Okay.
But I've been here all my life. Haven't gone very far from home. I'm just turned 43, so I'm an old guy, I guess, now in the hobby.
Well, honestly, not to cut you off, Joey, but honestly, you only got 1 year on me, so we're
yes,
close.
I know the Buck City guys said they were born in '87.
Yeah,
so
right.
Yeah, I'm not near that.
And when they say 87, if we relate to that to cards, what images come to mind on a baseball card? Because I could name a few.
For me, it's Bo Jackson's Future Star.
Yeah, there you go.
In '87. I mean, obviously the '87 wood grain tops was a big deal.
Right.
But that bow where he's chasing down a fly ball, it's got that nice rainbow Future Star on it.
Yeah.
That's the image that always pops in with '87.
Would you say that? I mean, I think we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but we'll shed back a little bit. But would you say that maybe, I guess on your end, what would be one of your more favorite kind of junk wax era sets? Would you say it was maybe '87, or do you got one that sticks out a little bit more than that?
Well, '89 is really the first year that I actively went to the store and bought cards.
Okay.
I had cards at my house from 84, 85, 86.
Yeah.
And when I was in the 5th grade, got my actual first card that I collected. I traded a WWE figure, or WWF at the time.
Yeah.
It was Junkyard Dog. I traded it for an Ozzie Smith rookie, which wasn't really that big of a deal back then for me.
Yep.
I mean, I liked Ozzie Smith.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything, what a rookie card was or whatever, and that's really one of the first cards I got. But in '89, I really, that was when every time I went to the store, I was asking my mom and dad to buy me cards. And 89 Donruss was the one that was always readily available at our local Walmart and stores and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
89 Tops is one of my favorite designs, with the bubble letters at the bottom.
Yep.
And of course, 89 Fleer has all those airs, Billy Ripken, the Randy Johnson.
Yep.
And I was not of the income bracket to purchase a whole lot of Upper Deck in '89. So it was, for me, kind of like my home set is the one that I think of when I started is probably 89 Donruss. But
nice.
I do love 89 Tops too.
So you did mention you traded a Junkyard Dog figurine for that Ozzie Smith rookie.
Yeah.
Was that kind of would you say that was your first encounter with like kind of cards of the hobby, or you had 84, 85? I mean, I guess tell us about if you remember, tell us about like your first maybe your first encounter when sports cards of the hobby were introduced, or was that when it was?
That was the first time that I was like, okay, I have a baseball card. But in the mid '80s, you got cards in Captain Crunch, you got cards in dog food, granola bars. So I had these cards at my house. But the first time I really remember being interested in like, this is really cool, is that Ozzie Smith rookie, and this is '79. I think it's '79. But it was like 86, 87 when I got that.
Yeah.
And I didn't, really, even then, I didn't jump into the hobby. I had that card, and I had a few of these that, pop up, in the cereal boxes and things like that, and I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
The first one I remember owning was the Ozzie Smith. But then, like I say, late '88, early '89, I was 11, 12. And it was on then. I was buying everything I could find. 50 cents a pack, 45 cents a pack.
Oh yeah.
I was just buying. You could get it at gas stations.
Oh yeah.
You could get it at drugstores. It was the true junk wax era. You could get it everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if you had Tom Thumbs in your state or in where you grew up or anything, but we had like the best gas station or store I could think of is Tom Thumbs, and I remember riding my bike and I would scavenge coins. I would try to do anything to get a couple bucks and just bike to Tom Thumb just with the excitement and the what's gonna be there when I get there, what new, and like Garbage Pail Kids would sometimes be in there, and I mean, man, those Garbage Pail Kids, which just like some of the other cards, I guess the Garbage Pail Kids, if we actually held on to them and kept them in the condition, those first couple series, man, there's a lot of money there. But
there's some good stuff in those, and I remember having a few of those. I remember watching the movie. It was one of those that I wasn't supposed to watch because I was real young, and it was not really kid friendly. But there are some Tom Thumbs around, but for me, and anybody from the South would recognize the name, but for me, it was a store called Sewanee Swifty.
Okay.
Like the Sewanee River.
Yeah.
And then it was Swifty. And it was just like this. They had this yellow sign with a bird on it. Looked like the school bus, the yellow bird, And there used to be one down at the end of the street from my house, and that's where I always went. Even when I started driving, when I was 16, that was 93 at that point. On my way to school in the morning, I would stop there and I would get a hot dog. I'd eat a hot dog for breakfast.
Uh-huh.
And I would get 2 or 3 packs of 93 Donruss or whatever was out.
Yeah.
And open those in my homeroom class with my buddies that were also collecting. And so I got more at that convenience store than probably ever bought at our Walmart, which I did buy a bunch there. But I don't remember ever locally Upper Deck being at any of my Walmart, any of the stores locally. You had to go to a card shop to get that.
Yeah. And
believe it or not, we did not have one in our town.
Wow.
We're in a small town. Every town had them, it seemed like. And we had this couple of brothers that tried to start one up, and dad's insurance office, but I never had access to the high dollar stadium clubs and upper decks
Right.
until later on.
I tell you what, one of my uncles, he actually in '78 he just missed. Actually, he tried out for the Twins. He was a big time athlete. Kenyon, which is a smaller town, but he was like an All-American and all that. And after that didn't work out, he got into sports cards. And I still remember, like, when I would go visit grandma, because he had a shed. They had like a separate shack from the house, like out in the country. And he bought cases beyond cases of like the '89 score and the '89 Donruss, like you mentioned. And big hots on like the Greg Jeffries and the guys we could talk about, right? Like that was gonna be the big thing. Apparently, that was gonna be the, I guess, investment. Right. I guess if we want to use that word. And now it's like, oh man, it's sits around and
I have actually a similar story.
Let's hear it, man.
My dad and my uncle collected cards when they were kids, and they have the whole story of, we had Mickey Mantle, we had Jackie Robinson, we had all this stuff. Yeah. And they would play baseball in the yard with tinfoil, and they'd hold the player in their hand and hit it with hit the tinfoil ball with it. That's who they were. Like, I'm Mickey Mantle, and he hit the ball. But they grew up collecting. So my dad did get me a little introduced to it. But my uncle Speedy, he played ball growing up. Him and my dad.
Yeah.
He kept playing, and he got a tryout for the St. Louis Cardinals. We live in an area where in youth baseball, my dad and my uncle played on our local team here, and then 30 miles north was a team that had Red Knight and Harry Spillman. He was from Dawson, Georgia. And so those guys both made it to the pros, Ray Knight and Harry Spillman. And my uncle got a tryout for the Cardinals, but he also went to the Vietnam War.
Okay.
Or he was in the military.
Yeah.
And that kind of interrupted him being able to do it. But he was so when when I was growing up, he had a son that's my age.
Yeah.
And he just had cards everywhere, and he knew all these players, and he could tell us who Tony Armas was. He could tell us who, all these people were that I didn't know.
Right.
And we could just sit around and look at the cards that he had from the 80s, and he would just tell us about all these guys and how good they were. And I think a Little League baseball coach. So, it was really his connection to the game, and then my dad, also playing and being a card collector is what kind of got me started. And then it didn't slow down with my mom. She was a big Braves fan, and so she really got me. We watched the Braves every night.
Yeah,
and they stunk, and then when they got good, and so I was just raised watching baseball, and the cards kind of came natural.
So, Dub, what I know one of your favorite players, or maybe favorite baseball players, is Ron Gant, right? So obviously, your mom, you watch a lot of the Braves games. Like, so is it just like watching the games, and you saw that being a younger kid, you saw that in Ron Gant, you were like, that's my guy. That's who's gonna be my favorite. Or how did the connection with you and Ron Gant, like being one of your all-time favorite baseball players?
When he came up to the Braves in the late 80s, he was a rookie in 88, but he played a little bit in 87. He was a second baseman. And that was before he moved to the outfield eventually, but he was a second baseman in the farm system. That's what I played when I was a kid. And so I always paid attention to the second baseman for the Braves, Glenn Hubbard, McGant. But when I was, I guess, 88, I was 11.
Yeah.
And that's when Gant's rookie season was. And it was kind of up and down. When you look back on it, he went down to the minors, came back up.
Yeah.
But in 89, we traded for Smoltz.
Yeah.
And then in 90, we kind of started turning things around. And the guy who was a constant for me through all of that was Ron Gant. Because, Justice came up.
Yeah.
We traded for Pendleton. We traded for Maddox.
Yeah.
The only guys, the guys that were we had a lot of guys from the farm system that moved up, Vinny Castillo, guys like that. But Glavine and Gant and, Andrew Jones later on in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, that conversion when I was 11 to 14, and the Braves went from worst to first, and Ron Gant was sort of that guy for me. That I mean, he was built like a brick house. He was a heck of an athlete.
Right.
He was 30 guy for us twice.
Yeah.
He was the first real star that I remember us having that had the big awards. Now, of course, we had Murphy, but Murphy moved on when I was like 11. And of course, I grew up a Dale Murphy fan. Everybody admired Dale Murphy growing up.
Yeah.
But when I started playing and kind of comparing playing and watching and collecting cards and all that, Ron Gant was just the guy for me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be fast. I wanted to have power. I wanted to have his muscles. I just wanted to be Ron Gant.
Right.
And so that's just kind of the way it worked out for me. And ever since then, I've just been a Gant guy, and I've had a chance to meet him. I've gotten, tons of his cards, and I went on this mission one time to collect them all, but
right.
He's got so many cards from you're talking about his heyday was 88 to 93.
Right.
I mean, he's got a ton of cards, and I've got some rare ones. I've got some of his minor league, Mexican league teams and all this other kind of stuff. But
nice.
I've just always been, I've always been a Gant guy.
Yeah.
And so it hooked me when I was young, and he was stealing bases and hitting home runs in every game.
Well, if Nathan was around, he'd say, "Hell, hook him," right? No. So that's another thing. That's another thing we can touch on though a little bit is another one of your big PC or one of your teams that you follow, obviously, right? The Dogs, right? The Georgia Dogs. Yeah. So where did that all connection? I'll tilt the camera down just a little. I think.
Yeah, it moved when I kicked.
No, you're good. You're good. So when did that all come about? Was that another thing where you were introduced to them, just because it was the home, kind of the hometown or state town, one of the college teams? How did your love or being a fan of the Dogs come about?
It was for me. It was I guess it was probably a lot of timing because I was 3 years old when Herschel Walker was there.
Yeah.
And every kid in South Georgia was wearing Herschel Walker jerseys.
Right.
And I've still got this picture of me and my grandfather. It's one of those Olin Mills type pictures, and I've got on the Herschel jersey, and I'm like 3 or 4. But it is the home school for me, and I kind of latched on early because I was really young when everybody was, when we were really at our best. I know that's kind of the catch. That's kind of the punchline for
right.
Gator fans and
right.
everybody else. When's the last time you won a national title? But I just became, it was almost like second nature to me. I was not really forced or I wasn't, spoon-fed Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah.
It's just that red and black.
That's what you picked up, yeah.
Yeah, it just became part of me. My uncle, we live about an hour and 15 minutes from Auburn. And about an hour and a half from FSU, and I'm 3 hours from Athens. And so I grew up with a big mix of people that, people like Auburn, people like Florida State.
Right.
There's some people like Florida, and so growing up, I guess I just made the decision. Georgia's my team. That's where I'm from. And I've grown up. I mean, it's cheesy or whatever, but I've always loved Georgia. I'm in the state.
Yeah.
And just I'm proud to be from here. I like where I've lived all my life.
Yeah.
My daughter's name is Georgia, one of them.
Yeah.
And so the Bulldogs were my team, but I've got, and I'm not going to let these out because if these were to ever surface, I'm sure that certain people would make my life miserable.
I'm sure I could probably know one.
Yeah. I've got a picture where I walked into my grandma's house for Christmas one year, and I had on a Clemson sweatsuit. It was the pants and a matching sweatshirt that my uncle had gotten me. And then I had another uncle that got me an Auburn sweatshirt, and I have it on in the picture as well. Those pictures at my mom's house. So I actually have pictures in Clemson garb and in Auburn garb. But those are staying hidden.
Those Saturdays. I bet you some of those Saturdays, especially, well, maybe even now, but back then probably some Saturdays got pretty interesting around the town or
Oh
the
yeah,
household between all you guys having that mix of kind of your different
right.
team that you go for. But that makes it fun too.
Yeah, that's what
Rivalry's
it's
a
all
fun
about. I
thing.
mean,
Yep. Yep.
I like to talk trash. I like
Yeah.
to talk about Nate and all that. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's all. I mean, that's what it's about to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
everybody loves their school, and that's
Yep.
what As long as you do it, reasonably. That's
Exactly. Exactly. So, Joey or Dub, tell us about where did Dub mentality originate? Like, where did that come from? What's the backstory
Well,
to it?
my middle initial is W. So um, I had a few friends, as we were growing up, especially later.
Yeah.
You know, in my early 20s, just I went by J Dub because it was Joey, and then W was my initial.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and I say a lot of people, my friends would call me, J Dub, and so it kind of stuck with me, when in certain circles. And so when I started to write back in late 16, 17, officially blog, I started a blog.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with something about, what can I call this? And at the time, I didn't have any intentions of writing solely about cards.
Yeah.
I was going to mix that in because it was a big part of my childhood, and I still collected and all that stuff. But if you go back and look at the early part of my blog, it's all still there. I wrote a lot of stuff, about old memories and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what can I come up with? So I was going to use Dub, and then I just used the mentality because I was like, this is what I'm writing. This is what's in my head.
Love it.
This is just going to be the Dub mentality.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't anything that I expected to,
Become
ever
something.
be.
Yeah. It just became. Didn't become,
so
but it just became, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it became. But,
Yeah.
now I have people that don't know my real name, and it's not because I hide it. It's just they don't.
Yeah, they just know
never
you by
call me
Dub.
anything else.
Yeah, Dub or Dub mentality.
So,
So, Dub, or Joey, I wanna ask you. So you do write for Beckett.
yes.
How did you were starting you were writing your own little blogs, doing your own little thing. How did you get connected? Did you like contact Beckett? Did Beckett notice you on an article you wrote? How did you get connected with Beckett, like to start writing articles for him? Was it something you kind of went after them, or did they approach you? Did they find an article on something you wrote about? I mean, I guess tell us a little bit about.
It was really honestly, it was just a another situation like Dub mentality. It just kind of happened, and the way it did was, I was writing my blog, and of course, everybody who blogs knows Ken Kinsley, Beans Ball Card Blog.
Yes.
He has a blog roll, and he just shares stuff all the time, And I had a regular Twitter page under my name is Joey W. Dubya
Uh-huh.
on my personal Twitter handle, and I was just sharing my stuff there. And Ken shared some stuff, and it kind of took off, and people were like, messaging me questions about junk wax and stuff like that, and I just kind of slowly converted into this, junk wax guy in 2017. That because that's what I collect, and that's what I grew up loving. And along the way, I met Eric Norton with Fat Facts.
Yep.
He works for Beckett.
Yep.
We became friends on Twitter, and he had a blog at the time. It was completely not sports related. And we got to talking about it, and he shared some things with me, and we became friends, and I shared some things with him. And I mean, we just it was like a bond that we formed. And I mean, I'm speaking for him too, but for me, it was like a bond, and it was like this, it's neat.
Yeah.
And of course, he worked for Beckett, and that was like a dream. I was like, dude, man, you're so lucky. And so as time went on, he actually helped me get the position with Beckett, and he, I guess, shared my blog around to people there. And the editor at the time was said, hey, see if he wants to do something. We'll figure out if what we can do.
Yeah.
And we started off with the interviews of the card shops, and that was John Finkel and Scott Bedgood, and I just started writing these interviews with card shop owners, and that was really fun because I was getting to talk with guys like Mike Fruitman, Sports Cards Plus, all these kind of iconic card shops,
right?
And asking them questions about how they make things work,
right?
And so we're doing this weekly card shop deal, and then Mike Payne, he's been at Beckett a long time, but he became the editor over the section, I guess, that I'm in now.
Yeah.
And he just told me, he says, hey, do you have any ideas? And we'd like to use you more, or like to feature you a little bit. And I threw out 4 or 5 things, and the thing that seemed to stick was the thing for me that I've been doing on my blog.
Yeah.
And that's those junk wax journeys is what they're called in the
right.
In the magazine. But I would just write about a junk wax set. But along the way, I met Ryan Cracknell, became friends with him,
yep.
learned a lot from him about. I knew how to do a blog, but I didn't know how to, turn in a paper.
Right, something to get published,
15
right?
years.
Yeah, something to get published.
It's been 15 years since I had to turn in a paper somewhere.
Right.
And so, I've had to learn some things along the way, and those guys have helped me all along the way. Ken, Eric, Cracknell, Mike, all those guys have really helped me, and it wound up with, it culminated with the industry summit 2 years ago, 18, in February. Eric just said, hey, come to the industry summit. It's in Fort Worth or Dallas, which is where Beckett is.
Yeah.
He said, you just stay at my house, and you can interview card shop owners there, because that's what they're there for. I mean, there's card shop owners, Panini's there, Leaf's there.
Yeah.
And so I went to the industry summit, and I met all these people in person that I had been talking to.
Yep.
That's where I met Buck City. And we have become really good friends because
shout out BCB.
We kind of hit the scene at the same time.
Yeah.
And we played off each other with some promotions and different things like that, and we just became friends. And I met them there. Met Sparty Hawk, Cash, and a lot of the guys that I had talked to on Twitter, and I met some people from Panini. I met the Leaf guys. I met all these card shop owners, and Eric had never met me in his life, and he just invited me to just stay at his house.
Right.
Right. And so it was just this, everything that has happened along the way of whatever this is that I am with my blog at this point.
Yep.
Has just been, I mean, it's just been pure, just day by day. I mean, I meet people, we hit it off. Of course, you don't hit it off with everybody, but I mean, I meet people, you become friends, and then opportunities come up between everybody. I met Shep and the guy and Steph and all these guys at the National. Met you, stayed with Coker and Plowman.
Yeah. I mean, life just life is timing, man.
That I've just kind of fallen into.
Yeah, life is timing, man. It's like, and what I mean by that is timing is like, you just things falling in place at right times, like being around right people. Like you touch on the summit, the industry summit in 2018, and being introduced with you kind of being around and your name starting to circle around, and Eric from Fat Pack saying, hey, come out here, stay here, whatever. So I wanna take 2 routes on, like, what you do with your writing. You already touched on what you did, but what I want to ask you in more specific is, who is the most interesting, or either card shop or whoever that you've interviewed when you've been doing this stuff? Who would you say was the most interesting? Like, who was it? What did you take out of it? Just kind of tell us, like, who was your most interesting person or card shop that you went and you interviewed?
Well, it's really an easy answer. I've met a lot of cool people, and I've met a lot of people who had innovative things in their shop.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anybody out there like Mike Fruitman. Mike's Stadium Club in Colorado.
Yeah.
He's just a one-of-a-kind kind of guy, and he's got, if you follow him on Twitter, he's always got these cool stories. He's a security guard for the Nuggets. He's a bouncer at concerts.
Wow.
He owns his own card shop. So I mean, his interview was really, it was like the second or third interview that I did. Might have been the first, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was just unbelievable because he had all these stories about, the people that he'd met at concerts and the people that he's had in the shop. But what I took away from it, really from him, is that he made the comment. He says, "I never feel like I have to get up and go to work."
Yeah.
He says, "I'm going to the card shop." He said, "I don't feel like I've had to go to work a day." He just loves being at the shop, and he likes being, having, people come in. He's been doing a lot of cool stuff during the pandemic, and that's not to take away from any other card shop owners.
Right.
But the one guy who like from day one that I was kind of very interested in and was a very good follow and a good steward of the hobby was Mike. I met him at the summit. He probably doesn't remember that, but I remember it. He's just a cool guy, and he's got a lot of history there with his shop, and he's one guy that does, is always looking out for the best of the for the hobby and collectors, and I felt that when I talked with him.
So you touched on that, Mike. You touched on that he's a security guard, like at the Nuggets games, a bouncer at a club or concert or whatever. So is he doing that stuff as well as being a baseball card shop owner, or is it just because he likes it, to have a variety in life? I mean, that's interesting.
I don't know his,
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
I know that
it's crazy.
He shares these pictures all the time of him. He plays this game. I'm probably speaking out of school here, but he plays this game where if some of his friends see him on TV at a Nuggets game, they'll take a picture and where's Mike or whatever.
Yeah.
He shared a picture on Facebook the other day where he was sitting behind, I think, Jordan and Pippen. When the Last Dance was kicking off and all that.
Wow.
And he still does it for the Nuggets. And he's told some stories on I think, Dr. James Beckett's podcast. He told a story about how he met Kobe.
Yeah.
And, he just has all these life stories because he's worked for the Nuggets. And then, like I say, I think he's been a security guard with concert. Like big time concerts like Aerosmith and people like that. So he's got some great stories. If you ever can get him on, I'm telling you, man.
Well, hey, drop me a little line or something. Maybe give me a little push. And on that note, is there any? You said he was probably the most unique or had the most interesting. Is there any specific story interviewing these people? Because again, this is kind of part of what you do, right? Is there any story? Yeah. Is there a story from anybody that really sticks out, like that you remember, like a crazy story, and it's something that you can share because it's they shared it with you and it was something you were gonna write about or whatever?
I've heard some good stories. From people they've met and things like that. I'm trying to think. Some of the best stories for me have been how the people have taken, ownership of a shop. One of my questions is, what made you decide to be a card shop owner? And hearing the different answers of how people wound up becoming card shop owners has always been interesting. But, another interesting guy that I met was Alex from I think it's Valley Sports Cards in California.
Okay.
And he does he does framing as well, and so he incorporated this framing and his card shop and memorabilia stuff, and he showed some pictures of some stuff that was just unbelievable. And the things that these people see come through their shops. Another question that I ask is, what's the coolest thing you've ever seen come through the shop? And you get the mantles and roofs and all this kind of stuff, and but I'd have to go back and look. I've been doing it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look to pick one out, but I've just heard so many cool stories. I mean, there's this guy who has a card bar. I think it was in Maryland.
Wow.
And basically, he's set up. It's not like an alcoholic bar.
Yeah.
But he's got this bar, and it was at the National too.
Okay.
But he's got this card bar, and you just come up to it, and he's like a bartender, and you tell him what you want, and you open your packs there, and it's just this cool place to hang out. And I've started interviewing Canadian shops, and I don't know anything about hockey.
Yeah.
I tried to get a little bit of knowledge of that, but we don't have a hockey team in Georgia.
Right.
We have I think we have a minor league team or two, but the closest to me would be Tampa Bay or Nashville or something. So that's not really my wheelhouse, and that's their. I mean, that's what those guys do.
Right.
And so I've learned a lot about that. So I mean, it's been a very eye-opening experience. The interviews, I just can't. I hate to let you down.
You're good.
One story that just sticks out above others, other than, like I say, that if you go back and read the one that I did with Mike, he had some cool stories about how he got started.
And you post them on your Twitter when you do write these. Usually, where else? Tell the people right now. Like you have an actual website, your own website, right? It's not just Beckett. Do you have like a blog site or a WordPress site?
Yeah, I still blog. Not as religiously as I should.
Yeah.
Because I've got other stuff going on. I've got other deadlines and things, but my blog is still dubmentality.com. But all my card shops interviews are found on Beckett.com, and there's a section dedicated to the LCS of the week, is what it's called, and each week it rotates. It's U.S. and then the Canadian, and U.S. and the Canadian. It's been a little sparse. In the last few weeks, because a lot of shops haven't been open, and it's hard to advertise a shop when you're not open.
Right.
And so I've got two in the hopper now that we're kind of getting, some people are getting back open again. But all of the card shop stuff is found on Beckett. And all of my personal stuff, is dubmentality.com. And the junk wax articles that I do, they are in the magazine, which is a whole nother level.
Right.
But they're also on the Beckett website. The first time I picked up a Beckett magazine that had my name on it,
yeah.
It was like I instantly went back to being 12 years old.
Yeah.
And
that's
my
awesome.
wife framed it for me, the cover and then my article for Christmas last year, and that was one of my big Christmas gifts. It's a big framed, cover of my first appearance in Beckett. So that was cool.
Hey man, I think there's a lot of people out there. Like I even saw as I try to scroll, I don't try to pay too much attention to chat like while we're interviewing, so I can pay it, keep all focus on you and kind of take the angle of where we're going. But BCB said, man, if everybody in the world could be like Dub, and I don't think that was that was a for sure real compliment. You're just a stand-up guy. You're a good guy, and it's always good to see good guys win or winning. I guess we would say winning, right? Because like you even say, whatever this thing is, whatever we call it, this ride or whatever, but wherever you're at and where things have gone for you, and be able to, again, man, just to be able to say you write for Beckett, you work for Beckett, and being somebody associated with the hobby. Not everybody gets to do that. That's very special, and that's something awesome. So I wanna go back a little bit, just quick, and I want to leave this up to you. I don't want anything, what I want. If there's a story of your own that you don't mind sharing, like maybe a crazy story or a story about Dub that maybe not everybody knows about, but you want to share with the people. Not something that you don't want to share, you don't want people to know, but is there a story or a time that Dub has that he wants to, that he wouldn't mind sharing right now, I guess, being on the other side of the interview?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things come to mind. I mean, I've lived a full 43 years. I really have, and I'm blessed. And I appreciate the compliments from you and from Buck City. I mean, I'm just, I've been very fortunate in my life to have met some great people,
Yeah.
and to form some great friendships, and I know what it means to take care of those friendships and to try to just do the best you can all the time. There's a lot of stories I've written about, different things, but I guess when I was 4, I cracked my head, and I've still got a scar, and it runs. I don't know how good you can see on here.
I can see a little bit,
all the way back to here. And my dad and my grandfather had this car that they would take to the drag strip, and it was called the Silver Bullet because it was shaped like a bullet. It was just circular, a cylinder type car with 4 wheels, and they sat in the cylinder.
Yeah.
But they had to haul it to the drag strip, not on a trailer. It went on its 4 wheels, but it had this what they called a metal tongue, and it would lay back on the car.
Yeah.
And when they got ready to take it, they would lay it down and they would hook it just like a boat trailer or whatever to the back of the pickup.
Wow.
And my dad was a truck driver, so was my grandfather, and we were all over at my grandfather's house, and he was they were working on a semi, and I was playing on that car. I would sit in and act like I was a race car driver. Then I got crawling on that metal.
Yeah.
And I got to the top of it, and it just fell backwards with me.
Oh.
And when it did, it landed on my head. I fell, it landed on my head. The scar has moved up over time. When I was younger, it was right above my eye. And, it's, I mean, I'm getting in depth here. Because
let's go, man. Let's do it. Let's do it, man.
I really, I mean, I can't. When the doctors told my parents, I was within a half an inch from just being killed right then, because if it had been on my eye sockets, it would have just caved in my skull. And it just missed, and I had, stitches, and I had, a plastic surgeon come and do some stuff to my forehead, and I barely missed getting a blood transfusion in 1980. So I come really close to not even being here.
Right.
And it didn't mean anything to me then. I mean, I was just a kid.
Right.
And, but as I've grown up, I realized all the things that I've been kind of, fortunate to see. And my grandfather's passed away, but my grandmother still lives in that same house. And there's still that area out there where that car was. There's still, I see it all the time. And it kind of, it makes you realize, especially at this age, you look back on all the stupid things you did when you were a kid, and before I was even 5, I almost was gone. And, my parents, there's 6 years between me and my brother. And because in my head, I broke toes, I bit my tongue jumping down a flight of stairs. I screamed yeehaw and jumped down a flight of stairs, and my chin landed on a stair, and I bit my tongue in half. And I did all of that was before I was 6. And so I am the complete opposite of who I was when I was that age, because I've got 2 daughters of my own. I'm very careful.
Right.
I'm the helicopter dad that doesn't want their kids to get hurt, because, I'm the one who was doing all that stuff. And so I write about a lot of that stuff, a lot of the stuff when I was growing up. But, that's something that, me personally, I think about, from time to time, depending on where I'm at, what I see, something that reminds me of that. And it just I'm just fortunate to have lived another 40 years of the life that I've lived. And, I've got a great family, 2 beautiful daughters. My parents are, great. I've got a younger brother. I've just been blessed. And I always think, when I'm thinking about kind of my life, it always starts with that accident that happened when I was 3. And I don't know why. It's just, it's just something that I go to when I start thinking about, life or whatever. And so, I mean, that's one thing. I don't know if that's crazy story.
Yeah, no. I
But,
think it is, and I want to touch on it just a little bit because you kind of like what you're saying, and I want to segue into it or talk a little bit about it. You say, you always resort back to that, like when you think about the life and you think about your 30, 40 years. I always say this. People hear me say this all the time. I probably sound like a broken record, but I always say that everything in our lives happens for a reason, good or bad, right? And
yeah,
you think about like you, and I hear you talk about that accident and the near death at 4 years old, and how you, I'm sure, like you're kind of saying, that makes you look at life in such a different way, in a different angle, now that you're, years later, now that you look back on it, you actually have time to reflect on it. And like you say, you go to your parents' house, your mom's, and you see the spot's still there, and it probably hits you back every time. But like I said, I feel like that happens so that we can appreciate our lives, right? Because I don't think we always do. I don't,
yeah,
we always say
no
that.
doubt.
We always say it's,
Sure.
whatever. We always kind of go back to, after it's too late,
Take things for
right?
granted.
Take them for granted when it's too late, right? And, a family member passes or something, we're always like, man, I really should have spent more time with them. I
Right.
shoulda, right? It's the constant I should haves. And it's, why don't we just
Yep.
try to focus more on do? Like, but
Right.
we don't, we
And
resort to whatever. Go ahead.
yeah, and I still have the I shoulda. I mean, I still daily I have an I shoulda. It's still hard to live every moment
Oh, yeah.
like that. But even with what's kind of going on right now, I think a lot of people have just taken stock in what they have,
Yeah.
and I mean, life has changed. I mean, you can't go to a store without a mask and gloves. I mean, life is different,
Right.
and it kind of took so many things for granted. Um, you know, but I think every day, especially when I lay down at night, I just try to take inventory of what I did, what I should not have done, what I should have done differently, what I'm proud of, and I mean I really do that and try to make a change for the next day,
Right.
whatever that may be. Doesn't always work. I mean we're human,
Right.
and I have my days just like anybody else, but
Oh, yeah.
I, I've tried to learn from things over time and just try to be the get everything I can out of a day.
Right.
And writing has helped me do that because I'm able to go back to points in my life that were either funny or scary
Yep.
or embarrassing. I wrote one time about how when I was in the 6th grade, I believe it was, and I try to pair everything up. I try to pair a story with a set.
Yeah.
And this story worked out perfectly for the '89 Fleer, Billy Root,
Oh, yeah.
because when I was in 6th grade, I wrote this profanity-laced letter to a classmate because he told on somebody for cheating on a test, and so I thought I was cool, in
Right.
6th grade that I could write,
Yep.
profane words. And the biggest mistake, which was the profane words, but the next biggest mistake is that the guy's dad was the principal of the middle school.
Whoops.
So I didn't just pick a random guy.
Right.
So he I got into trouble for all that stuff, but I can write about those things now, and look at things that I've done along the way, either things that I'm proud of or not proud of,
Right.
and try to use those things for my kids, because I've got 2 girls. I did not grow up with. It was all boys in my family. All my cousins were boys, and I had 2 girls. So,
Yeah.
I'm navigating different kind of waters, but
Right.
I use some of the things that I've written about, stories along the way, to try to, especially my 13-year-old daughter, listen, this is how I was, and these are some of the things I wish I had not done.
Right.
But were things that you're not thinking. And so I'm a very I don't know what the word is, but I'm very analytical of things, of myself, of situations around me,
Right.
other people. I'm just very analytical about that stuff, and I usually go deeper than I really have to on things.
Yeah.
But I do take away from a lot of experiences that or just seem like regular everyday experiences. I can have a mental check go off and say, okay, I'm going to remember this.
Right.
For the next time something like this comes up. And I know I'm off on a tangent, but
no, you're good. No,
that's kind of what makes me tick. It's just like every day I get a fresh start to try to do things the way I want to do them, and learn from the day before, and hope that this one is better. And so I've really had time to do that with this, the pandemic. Georgia got hit pretty hard.
Right.
My area got hit pretty hard. So I'm working from home.
Yep.
I'm not going out very much, and so I'm spending a lot of time, in my own head. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad.
It is, right. And I want to use a one word, I think, that pretty much sums up kind of what you were just hitting on there, and it's reflection, right? Reflecting.
Yeah.
Reflecting on the past, reflecting on, what good things got us where, what bad things got us in bad positions, predicaments, kind of like what you say, with touching on, to try to help your daughters and say, hey, well, this is things I did that I'm not happy about now, so they kind of know that. And I'm in a similar boat with you. I got 3 girls, and I got blessed with 1 boy, but I got blessed with 3 beautiful girls as well. So I kind of live that same thing. I'm outdone, I'm outweighed by the women right in the house, but that's not a bad thing either, right?
No, I could not have asked for 2 more beautiful girls than I have.
Right. Yeah.
I just didn't have the handbook when it all started.
Right. I guess, and one thing I want to ask,
didn't have a manual.
One thing I want to ask you too is, you probably don't find Dub much or Joey on YouTube side, but he does do his own little rip videos of his box rips, and he's always usually, he always knows kind of who's a fan of who, and he's like, this is going to be going out to this person. So he's another guy that's all about like the racks and the racking and all that. But I gotta ask you, man, when are we gonna? Is it because of the whole pandemic and it's hard to get product, or when are you gonna be back on the Periscope Twitter video train ripping boxes again?
I have this internal struggle all the time between Periscope and YouTube.
Okay.
I used to be able to go YouTube Live, but I've never really pumped it, and
right.
So subscribe. You gotta have a certain number of subscribers.
Well, you can use an app though.
Time with a box.
You can use an app to make it work.
That?
You need to get with me. We need to talk, and I can get you set up so you can do it.
I will.
All right. Go ahead though. Go on.
All right. Well, so when I want to go in depth with a box, I'll go to YouTube, and that way I'm just talking to myself. I'm just looking at cards. I'm just showing and talking about things that I notice. But when I have like a product that, like, I've got some mosaic. My local Walmart was fortunate to have some mosaic, and I'll probably rip it on Periscope because I want that live interaction.
Right.
I want the guys that want to talk to me about what they're collecting.
Right.
Hey, that's my guy. Whatever. And so I go back and forth, and with my YouTube, it's mostly I've got one I'm going to do on YouTube. In coming up week, it's a 98. It's a box of 98 football. It's Peyton Manning's rookie. Those are really more what I like to do on YouTube because I can actually talk about the set. I'm not keeping up with comments. I'm just kind of going through this set in my mind, but doing it verbally, where everybody can see it through my eyes. But then, like I say, when it's something something hot and fresh and new, like Prism or something like that, I want to have that live. I want people to interact.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth, but if I can get with you and figure out a way to do YouTube,
Yeah.
you know, I'd like to do it. I mean, I like YouTube better because Periscope is easy to use with Twitter, but there's just no telling who's going to show up in a room in Periscope.
Right.
And so, you know, I do like to keep my audience, you know, fairly family friendly, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so it's a lot easier to do that with YouTube. But I just haven't figured out a way to go live, so I'll have to talk with you about that.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can even do it once the thing's off. I can tell you a couple different apps that you can try to do, and we can work on it before because once we kill the live, we'll still be on until we say end or whatever. But yeah, we'll touch on that. So we kind of know what the PC is as well, Dub. I mean, obviously it's going to be Braves and Bulldogs. Is there a player or a PC player that's not like a Brave player or wasn't a Bulldog? Is there somebody Dub collects that's not Brave, Georgia, period related?
Well, I have a kind of a group of people, and it's a very obvious group from the Junk Wax era, but it's, you know, I try to hang on to everything King Griffey Jr., Frank Thomas, Bo Jackson, and Nolan Ryan. And, you know, those are kind of the four guys that, you know, I have. If I pull one of their cards when I'm opening a box of 89 score for a write-up that I'm doing, those are going in my, you know, binders, because even though they're 89 score, you know, it's those guys. But, you know, I loved a lot of guys from back then. You know, Will Clark, Chris Sabo, Eric Davis. But Ozzie, you know, Ozzie Smith was one of my guys. But today, you know, I don't venture much out of the Braves from a baseball card perspective.
Sure.
Of course, I don't mind pulling rookies, you know, of Vlad and all those guys.
Right.
You know, I don't mind that at all.
Right.
But, you know, it's mostly Braves now for, you know, current cards. But I've always been in all the sports. I've always liked a lot of teams. It may be because of fantasy sports, I'm not sure, but there are some teams that I really dislike. But there's a lot of teams that I like and like players from.
Yeah.
And especially it's probably more so in basketball and football than baseball, but you know, I follow players from Georgia to wherever they go as well. So, you know, DeAndre Swift went to the Lions. You know, Stafford's already there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've got those two guys. My big PC, I guess, to directly answer your question, now that's hitting me. My big PC at one time was Andrew Luck. And, you know, his retirement kind of went out of the word. But I was just a huge Andrew Luck fan. I liked him at Stanford. I drafted him every year on my fantasy teams. I collected every Andrew Luck card I could find.
Right.
My daughter has an Andrew Luck jersey, and we're nowhere near Indianapolis.
Right.
And so he was kind of, you know, he was a guy that I collected a lot of, and I still do, you know, in older sets. But, you know, his retirement was kind of a surprise, and you know, I mean, he's not popping up in new products anymore.
I think it took a lot of people by surprise, you know. It's like it was just kind of a shot, like, boom, wow, okay, you're done, I guess. I had something. So the time that you've been ripping packs, ripping boxes, what would you say was the most insane, whatever you would consider the most insane pull you've ever pulled out of a box? Now, it could be value related. It could be just kind of more, you know, on a personal base. Because sometimes there's cards that we're connected with that maybe don't have a lot of value, you know, but it's got a lot of value to us.
Well, I have two answers to that.
All right.
I have two answers. One will be value, and then one is
perfect.
One that I just, you know, it was a pull. But last year in Contenders football, at the peak of Baker Mayfield, I pulled a Baker Contenders 20th anniversary autograph.
Oh wow!
It was numbered to 20. I mean, they were selling for like $2,500 on YouTube. I mean, on YouTube, on eBay.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most valuable card I've ever pulled. I pulled a Zion optic hollow this year. It was pretty cool. But that Baker, I mean, it was like the height of Baker Mania
Yeah.
when he was a rookie and just playing well. And they were, projected to make the playoffs and make a Super Bowl run. And it was just insane when I pulled it. I couldn't believe it. And the 20th anniversaries were the 20th anniversary of the first year of contenders, which I think was Brady, maybe Manning. It was Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
And so they were designed just like that. And so it was just really neat. But the pull that will always be in my mind.
Yeah.
It just happened 3 years ago, but it happened about 20 years too late. I finally pulled the '89 Griffey Upper Deck.
Oh wow!
I bought a box of Upper Deck from my car shop that I go to. He had them $100 a piece, and he said, "I bought a case." He said, and I trusted him. He said, "They're not searched." He said, "I haven't even opened." He said, "If you want one, take it." I pulled 2 juniors, but the first one that I pulled, I mean, I just stopped and I was like, "This is it.
Right.
This is the card for me."
Right.
That eluded me my whole life. And so that will probably be my most memorable pull until I pull an Elite from $91 or $92.
Right.
I still have never pulled one of those. I own a few that I bought, but the Donruss Elite that's become my life's mission to pull a pack, fresh, as they say, Elite card from $91 or $92. So
nice.
The junior '89 Upper Deck will be a lasting memory for me.
Nice. Gunderson, I have cards in Dub's Fireproof. Gunderson saying he has cards in your Fireproof.
He's saying that some of the cards in my Fireproof are his, and we need to discuss that a little
offline. Yeah, we're not trading on YouTube lives here on an interview.
One of the cards, I do like to send out cards. If they're not my PC, I've been blessed by other people sending me stuff. I mean, Rob Bayless sent me a Frank Thomas autograph jersey.
You hit up BCB.
Jimmy Guns has sent me stuff.
Yeah,
Buck City sends me stuff.
You hit BCB too. With the whole that rack thing they showed on there, they got it on the wall now. The Bosas, the Crusade Bosas, they rainbowed it.
I try to do that when it's not my PC, and I know that it comes back, eventually. But the one card that I regret is one that I sent to Nate, and it was out of the Leaf Army All-American, which is the senior year.
Yeah, you love that. That's one of your products you love. Yep.
Yeah, and I sent him a J.K. Dobbins autograph out of that thing. I didn't know who he was. And old J.K. had a great career at Ohio State.
Right.
And is now in the pros. And that's the one that I always tell Nate, that's still my card. I just loaned it to you.
Right.
And we cut off about that.
He lies. He says Baker and Classics, Watson. I don't know. He's going full board in the chat now. I think we open up a whole new can here with him.
Yeah, you've probably lost the chat room at this point.
Oh boy, right on. Well, we're about an hour, just a little over an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to share or touch on? We typically go right around an hour or so, but is there anything else that comes to mind you want to share with the people?
No, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate all the guys. I mean, I was in the chat a lot when you were talking with Buck City, and I recognize all those names.
Yeah.
I appreciate all those people who have, kind of been friends with me since this all started. And as we talked many times, about this, the friendships that I've made have been, lasting friendships with people. And, they're real. I mean, they're real.
Oh, yeah.
They're internet people, but they're real friendships that I've, been able to take with me. And I now text people and we share things with each other when we need some lifting up or
Yeah.
prayers or something, you know, I've got this core group of guys that you know is there all the time.
And it's
so
yeah.
you know,
Go ahead.
I'm very fortunate, and I want to thank you know everybody who's been a part of the blog, everybody who's you know followed me, everybody who listens to me on a podcast, which is still beyond me. When anybody would you know ever want to listen to me or see me, especially. But you know, it's been a great ride. You know, I've collected cards since the late '80s.
Yeah.
And to have it become such a big part of my life as an adult, you know, it's been great, and it's kept me feeling young as well, you know, because you see the '89 tops and you just immediately start thinking about the old days.
Yeah.
You know, Chris McVeigh is calling me right now as we're talking. I'm going to decline that.
All right, there you go. You're good.
You there?
Yeah, we're here.
Chris.
Okay.
Buck City Chris was calling me.
Oh, of course,
I guess he's not watching anymore.
Well, either that or he's trying to just play games. I think what he's doing is he did it because he knew your screen was going to go. He's just messing with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I appreciate it, man. I appreciate being on the show. I know that you've been one of those guys who has always been about, you know, the good side of the hobby. You know, talking to people who, you know, do good for the hobby, and I appreciate being called into that group. And so, you know, I'm thankful for being on the show, man.
Man, Dub, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you. You know, when I reached out to you, I appreciate you saying, yeah, man, just give me some time so I can get some things straightened out. Which that's usually the answer from anybody, no matter who you ask, because they want to get certain things in line. But I just want to touch on something before we let everybody go that you were kind of talking here on the end, and it was about like, you know, the friendships and how many people you start to interact with and you consider friends, right? And you say, you know, internet, but then even you're touching on it. You're saying, you know, now I'm texting a lot of these people. We're, you know, when we got something going on, we're praying for each other. We're trying to reach out. We're trying to lend a hand. We're trying to do whatever. And that's really what it is. I mean, and a lot of times it's not, you don't even consider it internet based anymore, because you go to the nationals and then you start meeting people, and then you go to other conventions, like you touched on the summit earlier in the interview, meeting BCB and Sparty and all those guys, you know. So I just want to throw that out there. It's, you know, it can be an internet friendship, but the internet friendship really turns into a real friendship. And it's been the same way for me with a lot of people, and we still have hopefully we still have a lot of time, all of us, to continue to build even more and more friendships and watch this hobby continue to evolve and grow. So again, man.
Exactly.
Dub, I want to appreciate you for coming on here. It's been an honor. It's been an honor to interview you, have you on that side of it. And I know you're usually one interviewing for your blogs and whatnot, but it's cool to flip the chair and flip the seat, and even to get a couple of cool stories out of you as well. On top of it, besides just getting to get some background and really get to know you more. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the doubleheader, man. I mean, we had BCB and Dub, man. I don't know if it can get any better than those two. I don't know that anything will ever be followed up this crazy.
I don't know how I got put behind Buck City Breaks, because that's an automatic letdown right there.
No, man. It was amazing. It was good. And I'm going to actually, we'll talk. Once I end it, we'll still be connected. We won't be live in a second here. But I will add his Twitter is down below in the description. I do need to go grab his YouTube, because I didn't even think about your YouTube, but I do want to get it in there.
Mentality, you'll find.
And I will get the link updated in there, so you guys can find all his socials below again in the description. And I want to thank you guys. I hope everybody has a great night, and we will see you guys tomorrow when I'm live. All right, love y'all. Take care. Peace.